Okay. So yesterday we saw how does the muscles get activated by the motor neuron. I'll tell you more about the motor neurons in the next coming classes. About the neurons I'll tell, but it is the neurons which will tell the muscles. Say they will bind at a junction which is called neuromuscular junction, and in the junction they will release some chemicals and they will trigger the action potential that will lead to contraction or the relaxation of the muscles, thereby providing some action. Just a minute, again someone has joined. I wait something. Okay. So, yesterday we had seen some structures, hierarchical structures of muscle, say from microfibrils to microfibers uh, to the muscles. Okay, that we'll see in the video how it is there. This is muscle fiber. From fiber, this synapses where the neuromuscular junction is there, and some motor neurons will trigger the action potential, and you can see the striated muscles of the skeleton, and these are the myofibril, and from one of the M line to one more, it is called as the sarcomere, and it is having a thick filament and thin filament. Okay, thin is the actin. See the contraction, relaxation. This is what happens. Myosin and actin. The leaves with the leaves is called the myosin. The thin is called the actin. Okay, and actin binds to Z line, and you can see this how the contraction relaxation occurs. See the actin more molecularly, when you see the myosin will bind to the actin and push it. This occurs in microseconds. We will not be able to sense them when we fold our hands or do some exercise or anything, and they require ATP for the action. So that is how. Now let's see some of the diseases in the muscles. Okay. For example, why there is a muscle loss? Normally, frequently it will be due to traffic accidents, and that may cause some muscles to be released, and blast like terrorist strikes or anything, or during warfare, combat injuries, or surgery, or injury during some accident. Okay, and this will cause a major chunk of muscle to be lost. Okay, which is called volumetric muscle loss, and or genetic disorder could be there called muscular dystrophy. You can see this kind of muscular dystrophy can be there where the muscles will break down, okay, by themselves. Slowly they'll be digested, and that is one of the major genetic disease. These are all due to trauma. it happens, accidents or surgery or anything. And here, slowly the muscle will be eaten. Okay. And if you see the disability in the world, what is the amount of disability which is there? In that, the musculoskeletal disability is second. Okay, the disorder due to mental and substance use is first, but musculoskeletal is something which is very important throughout the world. So musculoskeletal disorders, for example, I mean the aged people, the muscles will be digested. Okay, so slowly. So it's very important, and we have to provide a solution for this thing. How it can be done? So if muscle is gone, so you prepare one more bioengineered muscle or anything. Okay, so you prepare a bioengineered muscle, and thus you help the patients. How it can be done? So from a patient or some other donor, you take the cells uh, by biopsy, and those cells you culture them in the laboratory. Then you either make a 2D culture, that is very popularly in most of the biological labs you can see. Now there is a 3D culture also, which is as I told in the previous lectures, uh, we also in Shastra are having 3D culture. So you prepare the muscle and you can transplant the muscle like this. It can be possible. Okay. For transplanting, matrix is very important because the cell, its microenvironment is very important. That nowadays the bioengineers have come with many different biopolymers by which it can give act as a scaffold for growth of the cells. Okay, so here these are about the muscular system. Now I'll go to the applications, like what engineers can apply in this thing. I'll take one of presentation. Okay, so muscles, we have seen what are the different features of the muscle. That is, they are also excitable. So, as I told, it all works, the contraction and relaxation works by action potential, transfer of the action potential, and it can be excited. What excites it is the motor neurons. The skeletal muscles will be excited by them. So excitability as well as the conduct electrical properties are excitability and conductivity. And now the mechanical properties, some of the features are contractility and extensibility and elasticity. So these are the three features of mechanical properties. From this, how can you use this for any engineering purpose? Okay, that is a question. Now, earlier we saw by bioengineering what kind of solution can be given. Now you can take the bioinspiration from this muscle and how it can be applied to the different disciplines of engineering subject. Okay. For example, for that engineers, what now they do, I've mentioned many times in the courses, in the course about the actuator. It is a component of a machine that is responsible for moving and controlling. If you consider we as a machine, an individual machine, The component which helps aids us to move around is the muscle. So a machine, the component is the actuator. Okay. So you can call it a mover. And actuator requires a control signal when it, because for voluntary movements it requires a signal from which it will take the signal and trigger the locomotion or anything mechanism. And for any kind of moving things, they require some energy, and here biologically it was the ATP. Okay. So using this actuator, now you have biological actuator. Like for some of the engineering actuators, you can see they are some of the even at home you use the motor to take up the water up. So there are hydraulic actuator, pneumatic actuator, electrical actuator. These are some of the examples which are there. Just a minute, I'll have some water. Now, using the muscular system, the inspiration from that, can you make one actuator more efficient and maybe even biocompatible? Okay. For example, over here, you see the uh, spider web. Okay. You can see the spider web. It's very strong. And the spider web, when you see when a bat will go and it will get stuck. See, the weight of the bat is so huge, but it will get stuck. It is not that it's just because of the gum. See the strength of this. After the bat gets stuck, uh, the bat is not falling, whereas the spider cuts the bat because the spider doesn't eat bigger animals like that. It will cut the web so the bat falls down. Okay, but it gets stuck. So when you see this spider, actually it is 5 times more stronger than steel. Okay, that is very important. For example, if you take the same amount quantity of spider web and same quantity of steel, you can see with the same quantity, say for example 1 kg of spider web, 1 kg of steel you take, and the strength when you analyze, the spider web will be 5 times more stronger than steel. So it's very important. So biologically, you have this kind of systems where they are more stronger than human innovations. Okay. So from this, what application can you do? For example, when you just compare the spider web, and that is also made up of proteins. So with the help of proteins, you can make different kinds of structures. And some of the features which are better than steel is, it is not only the tensile strength is more, it is also more flexible than steel. Steel is not flexible, whereas the spiderweb can be flexible, and it is elastic. So this is not elastic. So there are features which are more better in spiderweb than steel. Okay. So similarly, muscle also, which is made up of essentially the proteins more. They are the myofibrils and all which you saw. They are all proteins, and the more small molecular mechanism also, the actin and the myosin, they are also a kind of protein. They are also proteins. So proteins can make a better structure than the steel. So now can we think of any applications for this. Okay, so we know the applications uh, can be, for example, the ionic or electroactive polymers. So some polymers can be made just similar to muscle, how it works, and that triggering of the activity can be done by either ionic or electroactive. Okay, I'll give you some examples over here. Muscles are electroactive, so electroactive polymers are present, and they are called nowadays smart materials. In engineering, smart materials are very hot topic. So most of you can make a career out of it also. So, whatever nowadays, for example, even the home, smart home concept is the smartphone, smart home, and so many things, everything is smart TV, and everything is smart. So, even the electropolymers can be smart, just like the muscles. Okay, and electroactive, they respond to electrical stimulation and then change the shape or the size of that polymer. Okay, initially the polymers were very static, but now you can make the polymers to respond to certain signals, just like muscles. And there are two types of EAPs. One is the ionic, and is the electronic. In ionic, based on the diffusion of ions, whereas here electronic charging will be, so it is electronic EAPs. And these muscle biopolymers are different kinds which are available in the market, very commonly, popularly also they are available. For example, uh, bio, when the name is there, it is generated by any life. Essentially, over here, it could be from plant source or could be from a microbial source or anything. That could be the source, and some of the biopolymers are fibrin, collagen, alginate, hyaluronic acid, or even the extracellular matrix or the ECM of the mammals. Okay, so these kind of biopolymers, they can be triggered with the electric or the ionic charge. Okay, there are also, for example, synthetic polymers. Uh, for example, polycaprolactone, polyglycolic acid, PGA, PLG. These are all synthetic, but from the source of the life, these are fibrin, collagen, alginate, and so on and so forth. Okay. There are also, for example, in the organ on a chip, for the microfluidic device, a chip, we saw PDMS is very popularly used. Polydimethyl siloxane can be used very popularly, and polyurethane like this and all. Some elastic polymers can also be produced. For example, here you can see when you apply the voltage, when you trigger them, so just like how our arms, like contraction take place, and here the triceps contraction relaxation take place. Similarly, you can make polymers to either contract or relax. Okay, just by applying a voltage. There are a lot of applications by this. For example, one application over here itself. Say some arbitrarily someone loses a triceps, for example. You can keep the biopolymer, it can act as muscles itself. Same, because the action potential is nothing but the triggering of the potential differences same thing happens over here, and you may possibly just replace the muscles which have gone. We saw in some diseases or trauma or anything, there's a human application, but you may also think of applications in your own discipline. Okay, like robotics. You want to make a humanoid robot which looks just like the human. It can walk, it can jog, it can also move, do all the gestures. You can use this kind of polymers. Just see how exciting it will be. So robot is not like inanimate, very just moving with the wheels or anything. You can make it to just like muscles. You can provide this kind of polymers. It will be very exciting. Okay, in robotics also it can be made. See, for example, they have done this thread also. It can move around. And this example of polymers like contraction and relaxation which scientists have done, different kinds of polymers which can be moved. You just trigger them and synthetically it can be done. So there are wide applications of this. See this even for an eye, you can make the robotic eye, and if you place the eyelids over here, just see it can move just like a muscle. If in a robot it is placed, wherever someone say, they will say, "Hi robot," from right side, the eyes will turn to the right. It will turn to the left. And wherever the electromagnetic radiation is coming, accordingly the eye also will move. It can smile, it can laugh, it can cry or anything. You can make all the kinds of things which humans does. You can see like artificial muscle. They have done in some university in US where it can be stretched. Okay, and there are also, for example, aircrafts which are coming, which just like a bird, you can make it to fly. Okay, so I think with the NASA, they have come with this particular plane. It can just fly, it can glide, it can fly. So see, just like a plane. Okay, and this the year in Purdue University they had come, and can fold. It can electroactive. You are just making it as electroactive, and even even drones can be made like this, like fruit fly drones. So many different kinds of drones can be made. You all can take this as your project in the final year. And even nanobot. Nanobots are nano-sized robots. For example, they can be used for drug delivery purpose, so many biological as well as non-biological process to diagnose, detect, or even application can be used in those things. Say, for example, industrial pipeline, which is very long. In that somewhere there is a clog. So the nanobot just goes in and it can find where the exact clogging is there. Similar way, even for human applications, where the exact a blood vessel, if it has been blocked, the nanobot can go and rectify it also. It can be delivered also. So this resembles one of the researchers they have made such that it resembles the muscles of the elephant trunk. and from this it can move just like this. Okay, so and nanobot just like a bacteria they made. So just like flagella, okay, it can also rotate. So it has taken the bioinspiration from the bacteria, so moving and wherever it can go. So these are nanobots. So you can, the things are amazing. You can just uh, assume for what application, how it has to be made, and from muscles, it can be taken as a bio-inspiration. Okay, so I'll stop here. Lot of electroactive polymers. This one inspiration.